At SunTrust Park in Atlanta, Georgia, the New York Mets play the Atlanta Braves. New York Mets baseball on SNY is brought to you by Citi, preferred card of the New York Mets. By Jeep, the most awarded lineup of SUVs ever. Visit Jeep.com to learn more. By Geico, the #1 insurer in the New York market. And by Honda, great deals are waiting at your Honda dealer. And a pleasant good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Atlanta. Gary Cohen, Ron Darling with you today as the Mets close out their two-game series against the Braves. You know about the Mets offense right now. Yeah. They're in an historically bad run, and it's put an enormous amount of pressure on the starting pitchers, starting with the Mets ace, Jacob deGrom, who feels as though you would have to think that every pitch he throws is under duress right now.
You know, Gary, if I'm completely honest, I can remember 30 years ago to when I pitched. When a team is struggling the way the Mets are struggling right now, it's only human nature that it kind of seeps into your system. And before you go to the ballpark, you say to yourself, you know, I'm going to have to be perfect today. In his last game against the Yankees, deGrom was almost perfect for the entire game. And he made, really, to me, one mistake. A high change up to Brett Gardner. That was a two-run home run. And if you watch deGrom's reaction, and he usually has great body language, you can tell that the weight of the Mets and their inability to score weighs on a starting pitcher when you are not getting any runs. You see the run support, hardly any, his record, and the Mets' record even more importantly. And when you're the ace of a staff, there's even more pressure on you because you know at some point you've got to end this awful streak they're on.
I mean, it's almost incomprehensible that you could have an 0.81 ERA over 9 starts and your team be 2-7. But let's focus on deGrom.
Okay.
I mean, he was the Mets' best and most healthy starter last year, but he's taken his game to a new level.
Well, I think while we were watching guys have nicknames and guys branding themselves and guys trying to say how good they were, Jacob deGrom did nothing but just kept pitching. I think it's really apropos that when he comes out to pitch at home, his song is Simple Man, because he has kept it simple. And that is, he attacks the strike zone, he goes after people. Yes, does he have innate, amazing physical gifts, but he does that with a heart that's weighs 20 pounds.
And by the way, also the best ERA in the history of the game, pitching in the daytime, and he gets the noontime start today. Against the Canadian right-hander Mike Soroka, just 20 years old, he made his big league debut against the Mets last month.
You know, he's been out because he had a little shoulder inflammation. He's back. 6 innings against the Mets. With that win, he only gave up 1 run. He was very, very impressive.
So the Mets look for a split before they leave Atlanta for the dry heat of Arizona. It's the Mets and Braves at SunTrust Park. All the action coming your way today on SNY. SNY is brought to you by the Bullpen Jackpot Sweepstakes from the New York Lottery. Go to sny.tv/New York Lottery to enter. By Dodge, visit Dodge.com to learn more about their powerful lineup. And by Spectrum. Hey, Mets fans, get the best TV, internet, and voice service today at Spectrum.com. Be at Citi Field Saturday, June 23rd. The Mets take on the Dodgers at 7:15 p.m. The first 25,000 fans in attendance will receive a home run Apple figurine, courtesy of Delta Airlines. For tickets, visit Mets.com/tickets. Time for T-Mobile's Hats Off for Heroes. And our honoree today is the great Casey Stengel, the old professor. He had a lot in his legacy, including a stint in the United States Navy. Do you know that Casey, at one point in his life, was training to be a dentist?
Wow.
A left-handed dentist. Do you know how rare that is?
People didn't really trust left-handers in those days.
Well, Casey had a lot of left-hander in him. Have I mentioned that the Braves have a new mascot?
Tired.
Really?
Tired.
It's worn out his welcome quickly. Career ejection as a major league manager after Brandon Nimmo was called back to the plate after being hit by a pitch, and he's going through it with the umpires again.
You're saying his explanation was that even though Nimmo put his arm out, Mickey felt as though the ball was so far inside, should have been a hit by pitch anyway.
I think he was a little less strident today than he was last night. Here's your Geico Mets starting lineup. Conforto will bat leadoff for the second straight day, and there he is, leading off against Mike Soroka. He takes a strike, and we're underway. Conforto now 0 for his last 20. He's seeing his batting average shrink to .212. And Soroka misses away with a fastball, and it's 1-1. Mike Soroka, fourth big league start today.
See the numbers brought to you by Toyota. He cuts his fastball. He has a little sink on it, so two different pitches. That's a sinker, and then a good breaking ball and changeup. Very developed for a 20-year-old kid, the youngest starting pitcher in the major leagues.
He was the youngest player in the majors when he came up on May the 1st to face the Mets, and he acquitted himself quite nicely in his debut. 6 innings, allowed just 1 run. Bounced down to first base. Freeman handles it. And Conforto's 0 stretches to a career high tying 21.
Here's the Braves defense. Suzuki's in there. Flowers and he go back and forth as catchers. Camargo made that great double play tagging Cabrera last night, and then out in the outfield, Inciarte always seems to make at least one good catch or throw against the Mets in every series.
No sound effect from the cannon.
I know what's going on, guys.
Come on, we're slipping.
On the road, I guess.
Here's Todd Frazier. He takes outside. Frazier 0 for 3 last night. 6 games off the disabled list. He's 5 for 23 with a couple of home runs. Mets were held to just 3 hits last night in their 8-2 loss. Their 9th loss in their last 10. And during that 10-game span, the Mets have scored 15 runs on only 46 hits. That's the fewest runs and hits in a 10-game span for any team in any season since 1972, when the Brewers had a stretch like that. Before that, the last stretch like that in the big leagues was the 1907 Brooklyn Dodgers. So what is happening to the Mets right now historically is, well, it's historic. And not in a good way.
No, exactly.
Slider in for a strike from Soroka, and it's 2-2.
But to tell you how close they have been, but haven't been able to push through. Before May 23rd, they're 24-5 when they led after 6 innings. Since May 23rd, 4-8.
That's driven toward right center, and Inciarte drifts over. And Frazier's retired. 2 out.
Last night I was saying, for you folks who didn't see last night's game, 6 times the Mets went down 1-2-3 in last night's game. That doesn't usually happen unless the pitcher's having a magical game. And the Braves used how many pitchers last night? 5, 6?
Well, Fultonevich was great, but he left after 5 with triceps tightness, and the Mets got a couple of runs in the 6th, but then nothing more after that. Here's Nimmo, 0 for 3 last night. He got on base with a walk after being hit by a pitch and then being called back for not having made an effort to get out of the way. On base percentage at .410 starting the day. He is now 12 plate appearances shy of qualifying for the league leaders. Here's what happened last night.
So it's a breaking ball behind him. There's no place for him to go, but he leaned in just with that right elbow and left it there, and that's why Stu Sherwater, the home plate umpire, said he's got to come back. And then Mickey had a choice word or two. Good audio, guys. Outstanding.
Mickey's girls were at the game last night. They were up at the concession stand watching the monitor when that happened, and they saw their dad getting all heated, and his daughter started crying. They didn't like seeing dad all upset like that. That's cued foul by Nimmo. He said, well, as long as you weren't directing it at them. He said, oh, never. They've never seen me like that
exactly
before.
I was just thinking, that's the human factor of this game. You forget about the families that have to see sometimes when you snap.
New experience for Mickey, who sat in his office the rest of the game and watched on TV. Nimmo hits one on the ground and actually plucked out of the air by Albies before it hit the ground on the soft liner by Nimmo, and that retires the side. Soroka gets the Mets 1-2-3 in his first inning back off the disabled list.
Oh, it bounced.
Might have bounced. Not a reviewable call.
Oh, well.
Through the first 2.5 months of the season, he's been the best thing the Mets have had going, and a prime candidate early in the season for a Cy Young award.
You know, 4-1, he probably should have double digits in wins. It'll be interesting to watch him this afternoon. This is a first ball fastball hitting ball club. It'll be interesting to see if he counters with a lot of breaking pitches and curveballs early in the game.
It's already his 4th start against the Braves this year. There's the Braves starting lineup. Only one change from last night. Kurt Suzuki catches. Everybody else plays day game after a night game. Ozzie Albies had the game-breaking grand slam against Paul Sewald last night. He leads off against deGrom. And the first pitch hacked foul, which is an act we've seen from Albies before.
Wow, the screen doesn't go all the way down the right field line here, just to the end of the dugout.
And that ball went past the screen into the stands, and deGrom with a little message up and in for Albies, and it's 1-1.
The Mets pitchers could use a few more messages, although ERA, despite last night for Wheeler, has been great the last 22 games for the starting pitchers.
Albies' grand slam last night was his 2nd of the season. First Braves second baseman to hit 2 grand slams in a season since Davey Johnson, 1973.
Davey Johnson in 1973 had a great year. 43 home runs, 42 as a second baseman, which tied Rogers Hornsby.
And that Braves team in 73, as Albies gets tied up on the slider at his back foot, and he didn't swing 2-2. That was the first team ever to have 3 40 home run hitters in the same year.
Darrell Evans and Hank Aaron that year hit 40 home runs and 392 at bats.
That's good, right?
That's pretty good.
2-2 to Albies leading off. Dansby Swanson on deck, and a slow roller into the shift. Guillorme charging, and the quick toss gets Albies for the first out. Well, let's go back to that last play that Albies made. It certainly appeared as though it might have bounced.
It definitely bounced.
But a trap on the infield is not a reviewable call. And the umpire called it an out in the air.
So arbitrary. What's reviewable? What's not reviewable? I mean,
I don't know why it's not a reviewable call, but it's never been. It's always been on the list of non-reviewable calls since replay began.
It's like, can never argue balls and strikes. Well, wait a minute. That's the whole game. What else are you going to argue about?
If you really couldn't argue balls and strikes,
yeah,
then Bobby Cox would have been ejected from every game he ever managed.
He was ejected out of a lot of games anyway.
But he argued every ball and every strike the entire game, every game he managed.
That's right.
Swanson takes a big rip at a fastball, and it's 0-2.
I don't know what he had to argue about. His pitchers were the best in the game. There is number. What a treat he was. I know he was the opposition for a lot of you Mets fans, but to spend a half hour before the game sitting with Bobby in the dugout was always a lesson learned.
Pop up into shallow right. Guillorme out. Bruce in to call, and Bruce makes the catch, and there are 2 out.
There's Alexis Mets defense. Plawecki in there day game after a night game. Guillorme, of course, Cabrera getting a seat after last night's game with that hamstring problem he's got going, and this is your outfield every day, all day.
Speaking of which, it is now 1 month to the day since Yoenis Cespedes last played a game. Here's Freddie Freeman, and he grounds one into the shift. Another chance for Guillorme, and it's a 1-2-3 opening inning for Jacob deGrom on just 8 pitches. No score after 1. is in statuary and in person in the ballpark today. Jay Bruce leads off in the second. Jay last night had as good a night as he's had in weeks. A few nice plays in the outfield, a 2-run double. There's Bobby sitting next to John Schuerholz, the former Braves GM. Jay's double accounted for the Mets only 2 runs last night. And got him off that 15 in the RBI column, which he'd been stuck on for several weeks.
Nice to see him laying off that 2-0 pitch down. Getting in some hitters counts now is Jay Bruce.
And Soroka finds the inside corner, 3-1. The shift that Bruce sees every at bat. And he draws a leadoff walk, and the Mets have the first base runner of the day. Well, we were talking about Bruce's night last night. Here it is.
Well, this was a big catch. 2 outs on the ball hit by Charlie Culberson. Then he gets the 2-0 count off Biddle, and a ground rule double that played to 2. And then later, with a strike to Todd Frazier at third base to nail the runner Tyler Flowers at third.
So he did his part.
He did.
Here's Kevin Plawecki. Rocco started last night, went 1 for 4. Plawecki started Sunday night against the Yankees, went 1 for 3 with a double. Soroka out of the stretch for the first time, and Plawecki cuts and fouls it back, 1-1.
Big play last night that we didn't talk about a lot was Mesoraco's strike. He threw to second base. Enciarte stole the base, but he could have been out if Cabrera held on to the baseball, and then they went on to score the 5 runs after that. That would have been the third out.
Double play ball right to Albies, but Swanson has a long way to go to cover, and yet they turn the double play anyway. Swanson all the way over in the hole, and Albies had to wait for him. And they turn the 4-6-3 double play.
Albies has to know on that kind of play he really should go to the bag himself. He had to wait for Swanson. See, the ball is taking him in. If he fielded that correctly and had some momentum going, he could get to that bag on his own. But nice hustle by Swanson.
It's just that for years middle infielders have had a rhythm to turning double plays, and because of shifts, that rhythm is just thrown off so often now.
It's just all disjointed. It's not as beautiful a play as it once was.
There's Dominic Smith, who made his first start of the season last night and went 1 for 3. Called up yesterday after Adrian Gonzalez was unconditionally released.
Got the big shift on him because of the extended research they did on his at-bats in Las Vegas.
That is the second cue ball by a Mets hitter against Soroka in the first 2 innings. Nimmo had one as well.
He has a lot of late movement, and I said the ball was cut in on lefties and drift away from lefties. 2 different fastballs.
There's a changeup from Soroka, and it's 1-2. Funny thing about Soroka is in the minor leagues, the right-handers he dominated.
Yeah.
And the left-handers he had trouble with. It's been flipped since he's got to the big leagues. Now it's only 3 starts. But the right-handers have hit him well, and the lefties have not.
So 2 changeups away, 1 for a strike, 1 for a ball. Does he come in with a fastball here?
And the slider is dribbled foul.
You can hear Kurt Suzuki every time the ball hit to the right side. You can hear him yell, "Get over."
He'll make a great coach someday.
He's got a very simple motion for a big right-hander. Just a simple leg kick. Kind of leans back with that right shoulder before delivering the ball. That's where he gets that added power.
Last year it was pitching in the futures game. This year pitching in the major leagues at age 20. Two coming, and the fastball catches the corner, And Eric Cooper deems it a strike, and Soroka's got his first strikeout of the day. Soroka gets around a leadoff walk. No score in the second. Home second inning. Nick Markakis leads off against Jacob deGrom. And Markakis pulls the first pitch down to Smith, who makes a nice stop on the back end. One pitch, one out for deGrom. Nicely done by Dominic Smith.
That was a big league stop by Smith. This ball comes up on him. So down the line, comes up late, and how he kind of fends it off and catches it in the palm of his glove. That is a major play. Not easy.
Well, we've known from the first time we saw Dom that he has excellent hands, but with the weight that he's lost, he's also moving better, which makes him more able to make that play.
He wasn't moving too well in September last year.
So deGrom's retired the first four, three of them on ground balls, and here's Kurt Suzuki, who has just killed the Mets so far this year. Suzuki, part of that shared catching arrangement for the Braves that produced 31 home runs last year. Suzuki hit a career high 19. He's got 7 this year, 3 of them against the Mets.
Eric Cooper, the home plate umpire, has got the 12-10 strike zone working. It's very nice.
Getaway strike zone.
Very nice.
Must have an early flight.
The 5:40 flight. Back up at 7:30.
As long as it's not in the jackpot.
I'm only kidding. Eric is one of our best umpire. Yeah, you'd hate to have your rear end in a jackpot, wouldn't you?
We have to explain that because not everybody has seen it. There's a viral video that is out there. Apparently, remember a couple of years ago, after the Chase Utley slide that broke Ruben Tejada's leg in the postseason, the first time that the Mets faced Utley the next year, Noah Syndergaard threw a pitch behind him and got ejected from the game. Well, apparently the crew chief for that game, Tom Hallion, was wearing a microphone, and there's a video that is circulating over the last 24 hours that Ronnie and I have both seen, and I'm sure plenty of you have too, of Terry Collins coming out to argue.
That's right.
And it's very colorful. I would recommend it for mature audiences only, but it's certainly a fascinating look inside the entire enterprise of umpiring. But one of the phrases that Tom Hallion uses in describing why he had to throw Syndergaard out of the game, he said, "Our blanks are in the jackpot," which is an expression that I had never heard before. I don't know if you had. Apparently, Andy Martino, our colleague at SNY, wrote a blog piece and said it was actually from a movie.
Oh, really?
That came out a number of years ago, which I not heard of. But anyway.
Well, Andy was explaining that in his English class, he learned that it was context clues. I've heard the phrase blank is grass. Have you ever heard that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I've heard that.
In a sling.
Yeah,
I've heard that.
Yeah.
Right?
Wait a minute, I just got a text from the FCC.
I think we kept it clean, Ronnie. I think we're good. 1-2 to Suzuki, and he chases the slider for strike 3. First strikeout of the day for deGrom. And there are 2 out.
Well, it's a tight little slider from deGrom. What happens when it's this tight is the batter identifies fastball out of his hand, and then it just took a left turn.
By the way, may I mention, Major League Baseball cannot be all that thrilled that video is out there with all that audio.
Yeah. Well, hang with them. It's get people to like the game for all kind of different reasons.
Well, that was an attractive one. I would say that Terry's Q rating went up significantly today. Charlie Culberson 0 for 3 last night. And he skies one into shallow left. Rosario out, Nimmo in, and Nimmo calls him off. And 6 up and 6 down for deGrom to start his afternoon. No score after 2 in Atlanta. And this is a key feature of being in Atlanta, the traffic. So we brought you the INRIX Global Traffic Scorecard, which says that LA has the most hours spent in congestion, but Atlanta's there. They're in the top 10.
I've been in the traffic in all of those places except Bogota, Colombia.
I've never been to Sao Paulo.
Yeah.
You've been there?
Yeah.
Well, let me just tell you, if you take the relative size of the city, I think Atlanta's got them all beat. Right? I mean, LA's got a lot more square miles, a lot more population, same with New York. You know, San Francisco a little different. It's a peninsula. There's only so many ways to get in and out. But,
water gets in the way.
But Atlanta, man, it doesn't matter what hour of the day you are driving. Every road is congested.
And look at it on the left.
There's the current proof. Ender Inciarte will lead off for the Braves in the 3rd, but first Ahmed Rosario will lead off for the Mets in the 3rd. How about that segue? Scorecards don't get flipped for noon games. Rosario grounds one down to 3rd, and Camargo handles the hop and throws him out. Rosario out, one away.
I don't think we do a great job for the Chamber of Commerce here in Atlanta when we do our broadcast from here.
Do you think there's a city where Chamber of Commerce would be rooting us on?
Pittsburgh, maybe. Pittsburgh, yeah. Pittsburgh.
San Francisco. Chicago.
I'd say Cincinnati and Atlanta take a lot of hits.
Luis Guillorme getting the start at second base today. After Cabrera played last night. Cabrera playing through a hamstring injury, and you know, he got tagged out on that double play at third, didn't catch the throw at second on the stolen base. And you know, you don't know how much the hamstring plays into that, and you know, you want to applaud him for playing through the hurt, but clearly he's a little compromised right now.
Yeah, he's still got to be able to make the plays, the basic plays.
Guillorme hits one toward the middle of the diamond. Albies on the backhand, and the off-balance throw right on target. Nicely done by Albies for the second out.
Albies is out every day before the games with Ron Washington, working on his craft and his glove, and he's improved since April when we saw him. This is a play that he might not have made in April, and he made it look easy.
Got to the big leagues more for his bat than his glove, but I agree. I think he's a much more polished fielder now than he was a couple of months ago. Here's deGrom, 2 for 25 at the plate this year. And he flies one out to left, and Culberson backpedals. Now has to go further back, and it almost beat him. But Culberson, an inexperienced outfielder, makes the play to retire the side. Got a little scary there for Charlie for a moment. Just enough. No score in the third. Scoreless game. Let's check in with Steve Gelbs. His report today is brought to you by Volkswagen. Steve?
Gary, last night Ender Inciarte had 2 bloop RBI hits. Hits that Ron was talking about in terms of the pitch selection for Zach Wheeler. Both hits came with 2 strikes, the second on an 0-2 pitch. And Ron, you were mentioning that in some cases like that, it might be better for Wheeler to try and bounce a pitch, throw a pitch that is unhittable, so Inciarte or any other hitter can't just put the ball in play and those bloop singles can't happen. I asked Mickey Callaway his thoughts on the matter, and he actually doesn't agree. He doesn't want his pitchers really ever to throw a pitch to waste, to throw it out of the strike zone. He likes them attacking. It's what he saw with his guys in Cleveland. He mentioned Corey Kluber specifically as someone who gives up many 0-2 hits. That's the mentality he wants his pitchers to have, to consistently attack the zone, even if sometimes the results are what we got last night.
Well, that's I think that's one of the great things of having this job up here, is that you can agree to disagree on things, and because of the pitch count is so important. I totally understand what Mickey's saying, but I disagree with him in the sense that there are times in a game, in real time. This is not some fantasy time where some algorithm is sent your way. This is real time with a team that's not scoring, and at some point you have to make sure that a guy does not put the ball in play, because if a run comes in, it puts you closer to another loss. Simple as that.
Inciarte lifts this one to center, and Conforto steadies. I mean, isn't it also, Ronnie, when you talk about throwing a pitch out of the strike zone, it's not, I mean, the expression used to be wasting a pitch, but that's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about making a pitch look, say, appetizing at the bottom of the strike zone, but making it fall out of the strike zone into the dirt so that a guy chases it.
Exactly. What do hitters do like Inciarte? Not all hitters now, but what does a hitter like Inciarte do when he has 2 strikes? You know, he's not a power guy, although he has a little power. He's just trying to put the ball in play. So if he's trying to put the ball in play, if you throw a strike for a slider, he's able to put that in play. If you throw a pitch that's not a strike, he's not. Now it's different. You know, you have the free swingers like a Joey Gallo or someone. You can really throw it anywhere you want to, but not for the little contact hitters. Those are the guys that you really have to be careful with.
Well, and especially when you're operating, as you say, on a team that has virtually no margin for error.
Let's just say you're operating on a tight budget.
Where every dollar might be your last.
That's right.
deGrom's retired the first 7 as he faces Camargo. There's your Ford leaderboard. Strikeouts per 9 innings. Only Max Scherzer has a higher number, and really that number is what has, you know, Scherzer in contention with deGrom.
That's right.
In terms of the early Cy Young race, because in every other respect deGrom has been the best pitcher in the league.
Yes, I agree. The one thing Scherzer did earlier than deGrom did, he also has lasted a little longer into games, just early, but not lately with Jacob.
Well, deGrom had the 2 starts, the one against the Braves where he only went 4 innings when he came out with the hyperextended elbow, and the one against the Phillies where he only went 1 inning because of the 45 pitches.
Yep.
So that has reduced his innings per start. 3-2 to Camargo with the pitcher Soroka on deck.
deGrom waiting for Plawecki. He did not get the call he wanted. Soroka on deck.
In there, strike 3 call. Got him looking at the slider. Second strikeout for deGrom. Didn't put that pitch where he wanted it, but it worked.
This is the pitch that he used twice in that Yankee series to strike out the left-handed hitters, Hicks and someone else. It's that little backdoor slider.
By the way, is Hicks still complaining about 3rd strike calls? I mean, my gosh. How many times can he go down looking and complain?
Well, like Teddy Ballgame. See, Soroka, born in Calgary, Alberta. It's an unusual place for a pitcher to come from.
Guillorme throws him out, and deGrom has gone perfectly through the Braves order first time around. After 3, Mets and Braves, no score.
I don't know about everyone else, but this booth loves Canadians. Stu Sherwater, the third base umpire from Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, and of course Soroka from Calgary, Alberta.
By the way, Soroka is in line in his next start to start against the Blue Jays in Toronto, with Michael Conforto leading off the fourth. You know what happened the last time a Canadian pitcher pitched in Toronto?
It was a big maple there, wasn't it?
Mr. Paxton and his no-hitter at Rogers Center. Good changeup by Soroka, and it's 1-1. He certainly has not shown any rust coming back from a month on the disabled list with a sore shoulder.
Always been a strike thrower in the minor leagues and has continued it here.
Only one base runner. That was a walk to Bruce. He was erased on a double play. Both pitchers facing the minimum over the first 3 innings. It's just sort of the norm for these early day games. Takes a while for everybody else to wake up. Conforto grounded out to first base his first trip, and he lines that one right to Albies for the second out. And Michael's now 0 for his last 22, the longest 0 for of his career. The Mets welcome back Dead and Company to Citi Field this weekend, Friday and Saturday. Original members of the Grateful Dead plus John Mayer will perform 2 sets of music drawing from the Dead's historic catalog of songs. For tickets, visit Mets.com/Dead and Company. So 1 out now. Frazier, who flied to center his first time up.
Whole different experience seeing the Dead and Company than it was seeing Grateful Dead when I was 20 years old.
Well, no Jerry Garcia for one.
But the experience was a little different.
Well, I don't know.
Well, yeah, maybe.
I would assume that if you went to a Grateful Dead and Company concert, that there are still some folks who were there when you saw them at 21.
Yeah, I was right next to him.
I mean, you know, Walton could show up.
That's right. Tie-dye, a lot of tie-dye.
Frazier flied to center his first time. I'm probably more likely to see Todd at a Pete Caldera Sinatra tribute than at a
That's right.
Grateful Dead and Company concert. And that one is held by Suzuki for the second strikeout of the day for Soroka.
Inside, changeup to the right-handed hitter Frazier.
It's Eric Cooper making sure that Suzuki got a grip on that ball. So 2 out and nobody on, and now Nimmo, who had a soft liner that Albie sort of caught in the first inning. And a fastball in for a strike. When Soroka beat the Mets on May 1st in his debut, the only run the Mets got in that game was on a Yoenis Cespedes home run. He became the youngest pitcher to win his major league debut since Scott Kazmir in 2004. You remember him. That was his debut with the Rays after having never pitched for his original organization in the big leagues. 1-2 to Nimmo. Those were his numbers in his debut. He made 2 subsequent starts, struggled in his last one against Miami, and that's when they shut him down with shoulder soreness. It was May 12th, so a month and a day since he's last made a big league start. And this is with a changeup to Nimmo, 2-2, and they're talking about limiting him to 90 pitches today. We'll see how far he gets to go. Certainly has looked great so far.
Yeah, on this pace, he's in good shape.
2 rehab starts before returning. And the fastball catches the corner to the satisfaction of Eric Cooper, who's had a big strike zone today. And Soroka's got his 3rd strikeout. And maybe it was a strike, or maybe not. Second time through the batting order for Jacob deGrom. Ozzie Albies leads off in the home fourth and pops the first pitch up. Dominic Smith tracking it to the mound. One pitch and one out for deGrom in the fourth.
Ozzie Albies, after hitting a pop-up, which is a sure out, was 1/2 the way to second base on that pop-up. You'd like to see your young players playing the game right. I mean, this is an out, all right? And he knows it's an out. But instead of watching it, puts his head down, and he starts to run. And that's how you're supposed to play, kids. Never take anything for granted.
You see the Lorenzo Cain base running play last night for Milwaukee.
He is such an intelligent player.
Christian Yelich on second base. Cain hits a ground ball. They trap Yelich between second and third. It's lined by Swanson to right center, and Bruce isn't going to get there. It'll go to the wall. Swanson digging around second, but he'll stop right there with the Braves' first hit of the day, a one-out double.
Again, almost the identical pitch to yesterday from Wheeler, trying to come in, left out over the plate. And I think the Mets in the future, if they're going to play defense out in the outfield, they have to bunch the right fielder and center fielder towards right center against Swanson and play a little deeper.
So Swanson, who had the first hit off Wheeler, a double in the first inning last night, has the first hit off deGrom today, a double to the same spot. And now Freeman. And why in the world would you pitch to him? And deGrom is going to probably do just that. Come up and in and see what happens. Freddie grounded out on the first pitch he saw in the first inning. Started the day leading the National League in batting, leading the league in on-base percentage, leading the league in slugging percentage. Nice slider. 1-1.
It's almost like Freddie Freeman in these circumstances is the anti-Joey Votto. He will go out of the strike zone to try to put the ball in play because he believes in his ability to drive in this run.
Well, he's hitting .446 with runners in scoring position, which is the best in baseball.
Good job there by Jacob. You got to hold Swanson close because Frazier's so far off the line that if Swanson wants to, he could try to take that base here with one out.
So Inciarte do that last night on a delayed attempt. Good fastball by deGrom up and away to get ahead in the count 1-2.
This pitch is supposed to be in. Maybe got away with it because it was up.
Markakis on deck. 1-2 to Freeman. And Freddie gets ahead of that one. The exit foul.
So here's the circumstance where Steve, with his great report and talk with Mickey Callaway, I mean, wouldn't this be a place where you'd like to bounce a breaking ball and try to get a strikeout?
Well, deGrom has found the tools to get himself out of jams. That number is extraordinary. 118 with runners in scoring position. And that's lined the other way. Nimmo coming on, can't get it, base hit. Swanson to third, he's being waved home. Nimmo can't pick it up, and the Braves have the lead. Freeman comes through again. 1-0 Atlanta.
Up slider in the zone. You can see Freddie's approach. The entire two-strike approach there is to go the other way. Really cut down in his swing. I think if Nimmo had played that on the big hop, I don't think Swanson was coming. But once it caromed off him, Ron Washington, who's an outstanding third base coach, got Swanson to go.
No, he had stopped at third.
Yeah. So Swanson's probably going to stop here, but Washington turns him loose. They steal a run.
It's a single and RBI for Freeman. 1-0 Atlanta. And now Markakis grounded out on a nice play by Smith his first time up. So deGrom had retired the first 10, but Swanson's double and Freeman single, putting Atlanta in front. And you really have to question the entire approach right now in these situations. And I understand wanting to be aggressive, but this is the best hitter in baseball. He's burned you time after time after time, and even with your best pitcher on the mound, you really have to question the strategy there of throwing pitches in the strike zone to him.
Listen, I will say there were numerous, not thousands, maybe hundreds of times I tried to execute a pitch in the dirt and did not and gave up a hit. But that's where your thought process, in my opinion, should be.
Do you think Jake was trying to bounce that pitch?
No, I think he was trying to throw that backdoor slider.
Line to left. This one's right at Nimmo, and he picks it off to retire Marquez for the second out.
You know the backdoor slider he threw to Camargo to freeze him? I think he was trying to throw the same pitch and caught too much of the plate.
Just seems to me when you're operating with an offense that over the last 10 games is averaging 1.5 per game, that you want to be as judicious as possible against the other team's best hitter.
I will say though, Plawecki did put his glove on the ground, so maybe they were trying to execute that and just did not.
So 2 out. Freeman still at first, and now Suzuki, who struck out his first time up. And that's lined towards center field. That's a base hit. Freeman pulls in at second. It's overrun by Conforto, and Freeman will continue on to third. Now the Mets with some poor outfield play here in this 4th inning, costing deGrom.
Let's see if he looks it into the glove. He did. He just muffed it. Ejection from deGrom. Usually doesn't show too much body language. We were talking about that in the open, Gary. The cumulative effect of all of this can start to affect everyone.
So now a huge out for deGrom to get against Charlie Culberson. And he pops one up in foul ground. That'll go out of play. So that last play scored a single for Suzuki, an error on Conforto, allowing Freeman to move to third.
I don't know if Conforto struggles at the plate or seeping into his outfield play, but they're not up to the standard he set, in my opinion, last year.
Meanwhile, 4 straight hard hit balls against deGrom. Got Culberson on a fly ball his first time, and he leaves one away and gets ahead 0-2. Who's been piling up the strikeouts, has fanned only 2 so far today, averaging nearly 12 per 9 innings. And he gets the strikeout there as he fans Culberson to end the inning. 3rd strikeout for deGrom. Braves strike first. 1-0 Atlanta after 4. third strike.
Yeah, he's got a couple of calls from Eric Cooper that you usually do not see. Calls for the ball away, inside, sorry. The ball is away. It's kind of a cutting fastball that you usually don't get that call from the umpire when it's on the other side of the plate. I always say that the hitters are the ones that are pushing for the robotic umpire. When they get a robotic umpire, they are going to complain more than they ever have, because the pitches that are called like that are going to irritate them so much, and especially on the top of the strike zone.
Well, both of those on the G pitch cast looked like they were strikes, even though at times you might not get that call. They appeared to be the proper calls. Jay Bruce leads off against Soroka in the fifth. 1-0 Atlanta. Bruce has been the only Met base runner today, and he drives one out to right field. Cutting across is Markakis on the warning track to get there for the first out. Jay has hit more than his share of warning track fly balls over the last couple of weeks. SNY's NFL insider Ralph Vacchiano was up to the minute news and highlights from Jets and Giants minicamp on SNY.TV, your online home of all things New York sports. Well, the Mets were held without a hit for the first 4 1/3 last night by Mike Foltynewicz. They have been held without a hit for the first 4 1/3 today. Kevin Plawecki grounded into a double play his first trip. So Soroka has retired 9 in a row since that walk to Bruce. He's still faced the minimum. This is a 20-year-old pitcher who's coming back after a month on the disabled list. Spectrum high-speed pitch. Grounded toward the middle. Swanson with the spinorama. Oh, target, and got him. Great play, Dansby Swanson. That was outstanding.
You know, last night we saw him make a mistake to his backhand, so it's almost like Swanson positions himself so far to pull, as you see on Plawecki, because he knows going up the middle is his strong side. And that was a magical play. Spinorama indeed, Gary. I love that call.
That looked like a former Braves shortstop. It's an Andrelton Simmons play right there. By the way, Simmons not having a great year. I know he's hurt right now, but all of a sudden his bat is almost as good as his glove.
Remember last night the Foltynewicz's kind of no-hit bid was ended with Mesoraco's ground ball up the middle that Swanson did not get to. He got to this one.
Dominic Smith lifts one out to left center, and Inciarte back in the gap to get it. 5 hitless innings for Mike Soroka in his first start in a month. 1-0 Braves halfway through. Home fifth inning. Ender Inciarte leads off against Jacob deGrom. Inciarte flying to center his first time up. So deGrom allowed a run in the fourth inning. It's the second run he's allowed against the Braves in 22 innings this year.
And he's 0-0, right?
So far. Smith with the pickup, the backhand flip to deGrom, and they get Inciarte for the first out. It's a whole new ball game with RBI Baseball 18. RBI Baseball 18 delivers an all-new franchise mode and much more. RBI Baseball 18 is available now. Learn more at RBIGame.com. Rated E for everyone. One out now. Johan Camargo, who struck out looking his first time up. So deGrom's allowed 2 runs in 22 innings against the Braves this year. Watch out, Ryan. It's coming your way. Just to our right.
Oh.
Did Chip get his hands on that? No, it fell down to the cameraman. Chip's hands aren't as good as he says they are.
No.
Was a call strike, and it's 0-2. But deGrom has got a history of success against Atlanta. 13 career starts before today, a 1.84 ERA in those 13 starts. This has been a favorite stopping off point for him. There are only 2 other Met pitchers in history who had at least 10 starts against an opponent and a sub-2 ERA. John Matlack had a 1.81 against the Dodgers. Gary Gentry 1.92 against the Cardinals. And deGrom against the Braves. That's lined into right field, and Camargo's got a base hit. Fourth hit against deGrom, a 1-out single. And another hit where deGrom was ahead of the count.
It'll allow Soroka to show us his bunting skills. I feel like there's a lot of room to grow for a 20-year-old from Calgary, Alberta, right? Don't get to play as many games as, like Arizona or Florida or Texas.
Well, he was a hockey goalie until he got to high school and decided to concentrate on baseball, and he had one leg up. Oh, that's up and in, and he has to vacate.
It was right at his head. I think it was a slider that didn't break. Yes, it was.
It was a little scary.
Yep.
But Soroka had one leg up, being a pitcher, in a non-baseball environment. And that is that there was another big league pitcher, a guy who pitched for the Braves, in fact, Chris Rietzma, who was also from Calgary,
right,
who was his personal tutor on pitching growing up, and kind of took Mike under his wing and certainly helped him advance more than he would have otherwise in a less than baseball hotbed.
Well, Mike went to a Bishop Carroll High School, which is a high school in Calgary where you kind of study at your own pace, because a lot of Olympians go there, a lot of athletes. We should have had that kind of high school. Study at your own pace. That'd
Also,
nice.
in Calgary, they've got baseball weather sometimes in the winter when these Chinook winds blow through.
That's right, but only for the day.
Of course, it might be a hitter's wind, so it might not be helpful for a pitcher. And a foul ball for strike 3. So Soroka does not get his first career sacrifice, and deGrom has his 4th strikeout. Watch SNY Mets games on the go on any device with live streaming presented by Verizon. Just visit SNY.TV or download the NBC Sports app today for live streaming coverage of every SNY Mets game. Now Ozzie Albies, who's grounded out and popped up today after last night becoming the youngest player ever to hit a grand slam against the Mets. You know whose record he broke? This is great.
Who?
Tim McCarver.
Oh, really?
At age 21 in 1963 had an inside the park grand slam against the Mets at the Polo Grounds. Rod Keneal was the center fielder.
I mean, Timmy wasn't very fast.
Keneal was the center fielder, and he fell down. The ball sailed past him, and inside the park grand slam at age 21 for McCarver. That's lined to the right, and Albies has a base hit. Camargo goes first to third, and the Braves have another threat. First and third, 2 out.
Well, after the first pitch slider, Albies jumped all over the second pitch. Another slider, but this one up. Good looking young player. Ooh.
Boy, I don't know what Ron Canill was doing playing center field.
I was just thinking, I mean, Timmy didn't pass anyone on the bases, or Timmy's one of those rare guys that played in 4 generations, right? Four decades,
yeah,
sorry.
Played in the 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s.
Wow.
Played in, came up in 59. I guess he would have been 18 then.
Yeah, 18 or 19, yeah.
Is Dansby Swanson, and he dribbles one right back to deGrom, and Jake makes the play to end the inning. So deGrom finds his way through 2-out trouble and strands a pair. After 5, still 1-0 Atlanta. Sixth inning, Ahmed Rosario leads off against Mike Soroka and lines one right to Albies. Third line drive he's caught today. And it's the first out in the 6th inning. Soroka had a great play made behind him by Swanson in the last inning. He's had 3 line drives caught by the second baseman. And he hasn't allowed a hit yet. 1 base runner for the Mets. That was a walk to Bruce leading off the second. He was erased on a double play. Luis Guillorme. And a nice play made by Albies against him his first time up, going behind the bag at second.
It's almost like because of the struggles offensively for the Mets, it seems like no one wants to get to 2 strikes. They're trying to put the ball in play early.
Well, as Soroka progresses with this no-hit bid, have to keep an eye on his pitch count. Remember, he was out a month with a sore shoulder. Brian Snitker said coming into the start that 90 would be about his pitch limit. Here he is, just 61, but still 11 outs to get.
5 1-pitch outs in this game.
Slapped on the ground to Camargo at third, and Guillorme retired, 2 out. Let's check in with the studio. Doug Williams has a game break brought to you by your Tri Honda dealers. Doug. Been a roller coaster for Arizona. They started out 19-7, then they went 7-19, but more recently they're 11-3 over their last 14 because all of a sudden their best player Paul Goldschmidt is playing like it.
Yeah.
Little dribbler by deGrom. Soroka off the mound, and the 20-year-old from Calgary has 6 no-hit innings. Stay tuned. 1-0 Braves in the 6th. Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center is back, teaming up with the New York Jets. We're looking to help local football leagues with grants, equipment donations, clinics, and Jets game experiences. Does your league need assistance? Apply today at sny.tv/playball. Mike Soroka has really limited his pitch count, which is keeping him around in this game as he has a no-hit bid intact through 6. 2 straight 6-pitch innings. That's pretty impressive. It's a little hard to tell right now because the Mets are in such an incredible, historic offensive funk. But you still have to give credit where credit's due.
Exactly.
The kid has pitched a great game so far. Freddie Freeman's driven in the only run of the game. He leads off against deGrom in the home 6th, and a first pitch changeup. 0-1.
I don't know if it's factual, but it seems like every night there's a couple of no-hitters that go into at least 5-6 innings.
Question is who can get deeper.
Yeah.
And of course pitch count has a lot to do with that, but in Soroka's case exacerbated by the fact that he's fresh off a month on the disabled list with a sore shoulder, and it's only his 4th major league start, so this is it's fairly extraordinary on a lot of counts. Markakis and Suzuki to follow in the 6th, and another off-speed pitch gets him. So deGrom pulling the string to strike out Freeman, his 5th strikeout of the day.
That's a classic case of a great hitter deciding to just change the thing you usually do against him, which was in with fastballs and sliders. He just threw him change-ups. Change up the program.
So 1 out and nobody on. Now Nick Markakis grounded out and lined out to left. Markakis came into the day leading the National League in base hits with 88. 2 more than Freddie Freeman, who with his hit today now has 87. So quite a 1-2 punch in the middle of that Atlanta batting order. Markakis having his best year by far at age 34. There's another changeup from deGrom, and it's 1-1.
deGrom well in his way into this 10th start in a row. His last 10 starts, Mets have scored 19 runs.
Well, the last 9 starts, he has an 0.81 ERA, and they're 2-7. So we're kind of on the same track. Grounded down to first, easy play for Smith, and deGrom quickly has the first 2 outs in the 6th against the 2 hot guys in the middle of the Atlanta batting order. So now Kurt Suzuki will bat. By the way, Soroka working on a no-hit bid 6 innings in. You know, there had not been a Canadian throw a no-hitter in the major leagues since 1945 until James Paxton threw the no-hitter against the Blue Jays earlier this year.
Yeah, Dick Fowler did that for the Philadelphia Athletics against the St. Louis Browns.
And now Soroka 9 outs away, but can he pitch all 9? Seems like we had this conversation 6 years ago when Mr. Santana was piling up a pitch count.
That's right. His pitch count was a little north of Mr. Soroka's, though.
His career was a little deeper too, and I think that impacts it as well. I mean, you've got a 20-year-old pitcher here, and they're going to keep the bubble wrap on him.
That's right.
Almost assuredly.
He feels it, right? Standing up in between innings.
Sure, the nerves are fluttering a little. 1-1 to Suzuki, and he grounds one foul.
Oh, they're going to be all over Ron Washington, who's the guru of helping guys field ground balls, and he muffed that one. Come on, Wash.
He knew it. As a base coach, you only go after the foul balls you know you can get.
Watch this one. Played the carom. 2 hands. Did everything right.
DeGrom with a nasty slider strikes out Suzuki. 1-2-3 for DeGrom in the home 6th. Soroka back to the mound with 6 no-hit innings under his belt. Inning, 1-0 Atlanta. Mike Soroka starts his 3rd time around the Mets batting order. He's faced the minimum through the first 6 innings. Just 1 base runner, a walk to Jay Bruce in the 2nd. Michael Conforto's 0 for 2, grounded out and lined out, and he takes a first pitch slider down for ball 1. Conforto, Frazier, and Nimmo for the Mets against Soroka, who has been brilliant so far this afternoon against this struggling Mets offense. And he misses with a changeup 2-0. We mentioned the James Paxton no-hitter earlier this season for Seattle, the first by a Canadian since 1945. And it's notable, the 1945 one, because Dick Fowler, who pitched for the Philadelphia A's, was also, like Soroka today, coming off a long layoff. Soroka hasn't pitched in a month because he was on the disabled list. Fowler had not pitched in 3 years. He had been in the Canadian Army fighting in World War II, his first start back. In 45, he threw the no-hitter. That's grounded toward the hole. Swanson a long way to get it. His throw will not get Conforto, who has the Mets' first hit of the afternoon. So it's an infield single for Conforto that breaks up the no-hit bid and also snaps Conforto's 0 for 22 stretch. Nice hand from the Braves crowd for the effort by Soroka.
Good changeup away. Fastball hit right at the shortstop position, but of course the shift by Swanson makes it an impossible play.
So the Mets have their second base runner of the day. Here's Frazier, and he goes after first pitch and fouls it off. Frazier's flied out and struck out 0 for 2. So now that Soroka's no-hit bid is gone, the bullpen will get a little more serious. You got Nimmo and Bruce, the two left-hand hitters following Frazier, with the lefty Minter up in the bullpen.
Yeah, I bet you this would be his last hitter. Unless he gets a double play, then he might be able to stay in there. But
Soroka's now worked 12 innings against the Mets and given up just 1 run. It was on a Cespedes home run in his debut. Frazier lays off 1-2. Conforto at first and nobody out. And that trickles behind Suzuki, and down to second base goes Conforto. So Suzuki let it go through the 5-hole, and now the Mets have the tying run in scoring position.
well, they'll rule that a wild pitch, but that's a pitch that Suzuki should handle. He did not get all the way down.
So the Mets get their first runner to second base this afternoon on the wild pitch. 2-2 to Frazier, and he chases strike 3, and boy, is he unhappy with himself.
Well, it's the frustration coming out. It's almost like, as he taps his head, like he was guessing one pitch and got the other.
And that is going to be all for Mike Soroka. So after carrying a no-hit bid into the 7th, he gives up an infield hit, strikes out Frazier, and now he'll leave in deference to the two left-handers coming up. Quite an afternoon for the 20-year-old from Calgary. The call to the bullpen brought to you by Verizon. We'll be right back to Atlanta. A.J. Minter pitching for the second straight day in to face Nimmo with a runner at second and 1 out. And Brandon takes a fastball outside, ball 1.
Saw him in last night's game. Minter who throws between 95, 98 miles an hour. See his numbers against left-handers. Right-handers wear him out a little bit.
Worked a 1-2-3 inning against the bottom part of the order last night. Now facing the number 3 hitter with Nimmo and Bruce coming up. And a fastball strike. Nimmo hitting just 175 against left-handers. And Bruce behind him hitting just 190 against left-handers. Conforto at second with 1 out. Swanson trying to keep him close. And Nimmo fouls off the 98-mile-an-hour fastball, 1-2. Mike Soroka, 74 pitches in his return from the DL, and he couldn't have been much better. Just an infield hit, a walk, and 4 strikeouts over 6 1/3.
And let's remind you, 20 years old.
In his 4th big league start. Next stop, Toronto. And a look back at second. Swanson had backed away. He's been playing right up tight to Conforto, so he can't get much of a lead at all.
Yeah, he's trying to give his outfielders a chance in case Nimmo lines a base hit.
Shortstop hole, though, is wide open for Brandon, who has not really been hitting the ball much that way lately. And Minter overpowers him with a fastball for the second out of the inning.
Boy, Minter just went right after him with fastballs away. First one just missed, but then 3 straight.
This is a guy they've talked about as a future closer, and you can see why.
A little drop and drive from the left-hander.
So now 2 out. Conforto still at second, and here's Bruce, who's walked and hit a fly ball to the warning track and right. Tying run at second with 2 out, and the cutter well outside for ball 1. Bruce drove in the Mets only 2 runs last night. And now 2-0. Plawecki on deck. Nobody up in the bullpen, so Minter's going to face the right-hand hitter if Bruce can keep the inning going.
This is the same count he had last night when he drove in 2 with that ground rule double. 2-0. He's in a fastball situation. Can turn it up a notch. That's why Suzuki's going out.
Well, he drove that ball to left center field, something that Bruce earlier in his career did a lot, but in the second half of his career has become such a dead pull hitter.
Yeah, dead pull hitter, but you can get it started early here. If you're going to guess as a hitter, this is the best time to do it, right? 2-0 against a primarily fastball thrower. Get it started early.
And Bruce fouled it back.
Just a little late. I mean, he got the pitch where he wanted it. Keith would say a little under it too.
Two 2-1 from Minter. And he throws that fastball by Bruce, and it's 2-2.
The guys out of this bullpen for Atlanta have done a great job. Minter and Winkler and Carl and
Biddle stumbled last night, but everybody else picked him up. 2-2 coming. Too high, and a full count to Bruce. Including today, in their last 11 games, the Mets have scored 15 runs on 47 hits. Just over 4 hits per game. It's got to break sometime, doesn't it?
Yes.
3-2. Lifted to shallow left in no man's land. Camargo over the shoulder finds it in foul territory to retire the side. Nice play by Camargo. Mets get their first hit, but Conforto is left stranded at second. Stretch time, 1-0 Atlanta. Wonderful first day back at school for Mike Soroka. Looks young enough to be in high school.
Yes.
First day back from the DL, 6 1/3 scoreless innings. Charlie Culberson leads off the home 7th against deGrom. Culberson has flied out and struck out. deGrom, meanwhile, just threw his 70th pitch to start the 7th. He's given up a run on 5 hits and hoping that's not enough to beat him. He skips one in there, 1-1 to Culberson with Inciarte and Camargo to follow. And that's what he's done coming into this start. Last 9. Team 2-7 despite brilliance start after start. Pulled over third, just foul. That change up and Culberson almost had himself an extra base hit. Charlie Culberson, who had a pinch hit walk-off home run against the Mets earlier this year, one of 2 that he hit in a week. The only pinch hit walk-off home runs in the major leagues this year.
Is that the only bad pitch Lugo's thrown all year?
That's about right.
Right.
Right at Guillorme, positioned perfectly to retire Culberson one away. You know, Culberson also had a pinch hit walk-off home run against the Mets when he played for the Rockies. And there's only one other player who's ever had 2 pinch hit walk-off home runs against the Mets, and he did it also for 2 different teams, but both of them against the same pitcher.
Really?
Glenn Allen Hill
Oh.
hit one for the Cubs in '93 and for the Giants in '95, both off Johnny Franco. The one that he hit for the Cubs, I believe, is still going.
Was that off Johnny, the one he hit the left field that went over the buildings? Or is that one at the he hit one? There's Winkler up now. He hit one at Wrigley Field that went over or on top of the roof of the buildings across the street.
Yeah, that might have been the one. By the way, the Mets have given up a few over there over the years that have threatened windows in that building.
Well, I'm sure I have too.
Sosa hit one off Paul Wilson that I think broke windows.
I think I gave up in that ballpark. Andre Dawson's 300th.
3-0 to Inciarte, and that's a borderline strike. It's been a big strike zone all day. And Inciarte not happy with Eric Cooper.
I thought it might have been in, not down. Let's see what the G pitch cast tells us.
Knees in black.
I think the pitch cast, everything's a strike, by the way. Huh?
Well, it's like it's an Eric Cooper pitch cast. Grounded toward the hole, and that sneaks through for a base hit for Inciarte. He's going to try for two. Bruce is throwing a hop, and Rosario does not make the tag in time. And Inciarte has a hustle double. How about that?
Well, right out of the box, you could tell that he wanted to turn that into two. And just not attention to detail by anyone on the Mets side allows him to do it.
I mean, you talk about being flat-footed. Both Bruce and Rosario completely flat-footed on that play. And that's what Inciarte can do.
This is where, as a pitcher, you start muttering to yourself a little bit, like, really?
Now Camargo, and now it picked off. Inciarte will be tagged out. So Inciarte got a little big for his britches there, trying to continue his trek around the bases, but took off well too early.
Well, he tried it against an athlete that's on the mound, and deGrom was up for it. Maybe not attention to detail by others, but always by deGrom.
Was caught stealing 1-5 for the second out. One moment he's Lorenzo Cain, the next he's Ruben Rivera.
Oh, that's right. I think that's not the first time we've seen Inciarte get caught doing that.
To Camargo. Preston Tucker's on deck. He'll bat for the pitcher if Camargo gets on. And Camargo strokes one deep to right. Bruce going back and can't get it. It caroms away. Camargo heads to second, and he'll break it down and pull in with a double. Second consecutive double for the Braves, as this one just eluded Bruce near the fence.
One double in front of him, one double behind him. This is a rare hanging slider from deGrom right in the middle of the plate. Swatted to right field by Camargo. It took him a while to get out of the box, and just out of the reach of Jay Bruce.
By the way, off that carom, Conforto was nowhere in the neighborhood. He never broke toward right field to be the backup on that play. Fortunately for the Mets, with two out, Camargo was breaking it down and didn't even think about a triple. But that's part of center fielder's responsibility.
Right.
He's got to be heading in that direction, and he never moved.
Well, you never know. Your right fielder might crash into the wall. He might be, you know, might pull a Keneal out there.
But you talk about attention to detail. That's part of the deal too.
Yeah.
I mean, every play is you're part of the play. You don't get to stand around and watch.
Especially the way the team is going now is that if you're not hitting, then you better be 100% defensively, 100% on the mound. You know what happens sometimes when you're not hitting, you start to feel a little sorry for yourself. You can't allow that to happen.
Preston Tucker drew a walk as a pinch hitter last night. He was the last man Wheeler faced.
Those are all 22, right? We talk about it. Conforto almost like he's expecting Bruce to make the catch. Then he breaks late. As soon as that ball, young kids, if you play this game, always follow the ball. If you follow the ball, you're never in trouble.
Tucker goes down on the changeup. That ends the inning. 7 strikeouts for deGrom. He's limited him to 1 run through 7. Brought to you by PC Richard & Son, the official appliance, electronics, and mattress retailer of the New York Mets. Mets box score presented by Fidelis Care and has been quite typical these past few weeks. There's not much to show. Infield hit for Conforto was all. Jacob deGrom not happy with himself after giving up a couple of doubles in that last inning, but found his way through it.
He's not. He's happy with himself. He's not happy with the play by his teammates. Winkler, ERA 1.03 is 6th amongst Major League Baseball relievers. He's been outstanding. Peter Borges comes in to play left field.
And for defense to replace Culberson, Kevin Plawecki leads off in the 8th. Well, I know that Mickey Callaway is not a big proponent of team meetings, and I know he had a team meeting just last week, but the way the Mets have played defense the first 2 games of this series, I would think any manager would be up in arms. They are just not paying attention, and that's not acceptable on a big league diamond.
I've told you this story many times, but when I was on one of the teams in the Mets in the 80s, we lost to the Expos in a 1-0 game. I was pitching, and I wasn't mad that we lost the game. That happens. But I felt like after the 4th or 5th inning, we just resigned ourselves as a team that we're going to lose the game 1-0. And that was the angriest I've ever been after a game. That's how I feel. That's the feeling that seems out there today.
You know, hitting is really hard to do. And I understand that this team is in a dreadful hitting slump right now as Plawecki pops one up. And Camargo called off by Swanson, 1 out. I understand that piece, and it's hard to get angry about hitters not hitting.
That's right.
Because it is so hard to do. But defense is something you can bring all the time. Paying attention in the field is something you can do all the time.
Hustle. All of those things should never go into a slump. You know, the hitting component of it, you work, and you know, there's no real answer until it turns, or if it turns.
Dominic Smith has struck out and flied out 0 for 2.
Crowds here in Atlanta, they have been outstanding these 2 games.
I've been shocked at how big the crowd is, particularly today. You know, they built this this ballpark out in the suburbs, and they share parking with a lot of local businesses, so there isn't much parking available for this weekday afternoon game. So I thought the crowd would be relatively small as a result, because there's no mass transit that comes out here, and yet the crowd is superb. Over 32,000 today. And Winkler misses low and in. 3-1 to Smith with Rosario on deck. Well, it's a great home run hitters count. Dom Smith went the last 2 months in Vegas without hitting a home run. Of course, he hit 9 when he came up last year, which I think was a little unexpected.
Backswing by Smith caught Suzuki, I believe.
We've seen Suzuki get hit a bunch.
Yeah, he lets go of the bat, does Dominic Smith, comes down and lands right on Suzuki's glove.
Didn't seem to bother him much.
Nope.
3-2 to Smith. And that's ball 4, and the Mets have a base runner. A 1-out walk to Smith brings up Rosario. Coming up tonight on Geico Sports Night at 11. You know, a lot could change between now and 11, but for now, these are the headlines that we expect them to be covering on Geico Sports Night. Because it's really early, you know.
Anything could happen, right?
Right. You gotta stay with the breaking news. Tell you what the breaking news is getting ready for that Diamondback series is that Paul Goldschmidt has been found.
Yes.
How about this? Goldschmidt, the last 7 games, 18 for 30, that's 600, 4 homers, 11 RBIs in the last 7 games. It's one of the reasons the Diamondbacks have turned it back around in the right direction. Rosario pokes one out to right. Markakis drifting back, and that's the second out.
Well, the one good thing looking forward to Arizona is Goldschmidt. First 48 games in his last 17, boy, turned it completely around. Is that Arizona, I know they're hot right now, but it's an unbelievable hitter's park. Right. So that should help the Mets.
Now Jose Bautista is going to bat for Luis Guillorme. And if he gets on, the pitcher spot would be next. Jerry Blevins getting ready in the bullpen in case deGrom's spot comes up. Blevins was up briefly in the last inning too. deGrom's at 86 pitches through 7. You would certainly expect him to go back out there for the 8th if Bautista doesn't get on here. As Dribble Cabrera coming out on deck. So Bautista, who was let go by the Braves, gets another crack at his old team, and he takes a curveball for a strike. Bautista did not perform in his 2 weeks with the Braves. He has been better as a Met, although he has cooled down since his initial burst after joining the Mets.
An everyday player his entire career, well, not his entire career, but in Toronto all those years, and now coming off the bench.
And Winkler falls behind 2-1. Mets have had just 1 hit this afternoon. An infield hit by Conforto leading off the 7th against Mike Soroka, who went 6 1/3. Minter got 2 outs in the 7th, and now Winkler trying to work around a walk in the 8th. And he throws one by Bautista with a cutter, and it's 2-2. Dan Winkler has been a revelation for the Braves this year. Part of an outstanding Atlanta bullpen. Backstop by Arodys Vizcaíno, who the Mets didn't even see in that 4-game series the last time they were here. And Bautista down on strikes to end the inning. Another day of no support for deGrom. 1-0 in the 8th. deGrom is not going to go back to the mound for the 8th inning. 86 pitches over 7 innings, 1 run allowed, and he's done. People's United Bank brings you today's starters. Mike Soroka was great. deGrom gave up the RBI hit to Freeman in the 4th. And that's the only run in this game. Are you a little surprised by this?
I was surprised. You and I were talking in between innings. You thought that he was getting a little tired. I'm surprised that he didn't get a chance at least pitch in the 8th inning. Bautista is going to play second base.
Only the 6th time in his career he has played second base, and the first since 2008. So it'll be interesting.
Jerry Blevins on to face Ozzie Albies. Albies sits about 100 points higher from this side.
Albies 1 for 3 today at a base at his last time up. So deGrom goes 7, allows a run on 7 hits, no walks, 7 strikeouts. There are Blevins' numbers, and clearly it has not been a good year for Jerry.
The biggest number, see the left-handed hitter's average, 324.
Pitched well his last time out against the Yankees on Saturday. Albies hits one out to left, and Nimmo is there. Stumbles, but makes the catch. That one almost turned into an adventure.
What happened there? Get his feet crossed up a little bit, kind of sidling over to his left. I think he just kind of clicked his heels.
But he didn't go back to Kansas.
No, he didn't.
Or Wyoming.
Sometimes when you're running like that and you start to run a little bit sideways, your spike will cut your ankle. I mean, it's. See, he starts to backpedal. Oh, it's like the ball took off a little bit on him. That's what happened.
There's Dansby Swanson pushing a bunt foul. So deGrom with his performance today. Another one where he pitched well, but will not get a win. He saw his league-leading ERA go down from 1.57 to 1.55 as his eminently frustrating season continues. Despite dominance. Another curveball by Blevins that does not find its mark, and it's 1-1, and that's been a big story of Blevins' year.
I asked Jerry, how does he feel physically? He said 100%. And you're right, Gary. That has been the pitch, his ability to throw it for a strike, the curveball, and then his ability to throw it out of the strike zone when he's ahead. He has not had the mastery over it this year.
Fouled by Swanson, 1-2. Hansel Robles staying busy in the Mets bullpen. Mets are in Arizona to start a 4-game series tomorrow night. Steven Matz will make the start against former Met farmhand Matt Cook. Our coverage begins tomorrow night at 9 o'clock right here on SNY, and there are all the city probables for the series, including Seth Lugo, who gets another start on Friday night. That's will miss Greinke in the series. He's pitching today against the Pirates. 1-2 coming, and he struck him out with a fastball, so Blevins gets Swanson for the second out.
This fastball upstairs, using the top part of the strike zone, Jerry, with his fastball.
So 2 out and nobody on, and now Jerry has to face his nemesis, Mr. Freeman, who was 11 for 22 against Blevins in his career. Freddie drove in the only run of this game with an opposite field single in the 4th. Mets opted to pitch to him with first base open, and on 1 and 2, deGrom threw a slider, and that was in a hittable spot, and Freeman lined it the other way to drive in Swanson with the only run. Evans throws a changeup and misses inside, 1-1. Curveball is lifted to right, carrying well. Bruce to the wall, and it's out here. Freddie Freeman strikes again. 14 for Freeman, who's driven in both runs today, and it's 2-0 Atlanta. It didn't look like he got all of it, but the ball's flying out to right field, and it flew. And Freeman puts a hurt on Blevins again.
Well, he got a hanging breaking ball and kind of double clutched on it and hit it straight up in the air. And it got in that wind. And a home run for Freeman, now 12 for 23 off Jerry.
Not again. Second in 2 days against the Mets for Freeman, 22 against the Mets in his career. So that gives Arodys Vizcaíno, the Atlanta closer, a little breathing room.
Is there anyone better lefty-lefty matchup than Freeman in baseball?
How about lefty anything? I mean, right now, would you take anybody else over him?
No.
I mean, you know, Mike Trout is Mike Trout and all that, but I mean, the guy is, you know, he's leading the National League in hitting and on base percentage and slugging percentage. It's hard to do better than that. Oh, and 2 to Markakis. And he bounces the curveball.
Freddie learned how to hit Orange County from his dad. Vizcaíno's up in the bullpen. His father would throw him 3 bucket of balls after work. 1 bucket he'd have to hit the left, 1 bucket he'd have to hit the center, and 1 bucket he'd have to hit the right. It works.
Well, he's gotten buckets of hits against the Mets. I know that. The curveball in the dirt from Blevins, 2-2.
Orange County, California, I should say, right?
Yeah, there are Orange counties everywhere.
That's right.
But that's the OC.
Yeah. The Orange Curtain.
Mets will have 9-1-2 in the order coming up in the 9th. Pinch hitter, probably Cabrera, then Conforto and Frazier, and then if anybody gets on, Nimmo. That's been limited to 1 hit today. Blevins, for all the difficulty he's had, that's the first home run he's allowed this year. Not surprising it would come against Freeman, who's now hitting over 500 against Jerry. 2-2 to Markakis, and he misses with the fastball, and now a full count after getting ahead 0-2. Robles ready in the bullpen if needed, with the right-hand hitter Suzuki on deck. Three 2 to Markakis, and he just got a piece of the changeup.
It's almost like Jerry has better control of the changeup than he does his breaking ball.
He's working to try and figure out what works, because clearly the curveball has betrayed him all season. So not surprising to see him throw a few more changeups. Markakis lines one the other way. Nimmo toward the line, gets there to retire the side. But Freeman's home run stretches the Atlanta lead 2-0 as we go to the 9th. about it. Arodys Vizcaino will try and keep it that way as he comes on to try and get the save.
Vizcaino, since becoming the closer last July, 23 of 26.
As Drupal Cabrera will pinch hit, leading off in the top of the ninth. Conforto and Frazier to follow. Cabrera played last night, went 0 for 4, takes a strike, 0-1. The appearance of Cabrera in the ninth inning is a reminder of the big news in baseball last night, the injury to Miguel Cabrera. Yeah. Ruptured biceps tendon, surgery, out for the year. 35 years old, 5 years remaining on his contract, $153 million owed to him.
Ruptured bicep on a swing.
I had never heard of that injury before until Dean Palmer suffered that. Popped up into shallow right. And Markakis calling off Albies for the first down. But, you know, you're talking about one of the greatest hitters of his generation, and you have to wonder how you come back from that at that age.
He's been complaining about a lot of minor injuries all season long. But I don't know if he can come back from that. You know, not at the level he's used to playing.
Here's Conforto as the Mets only hit an infield single that led off the 7th inning. Well, you keep thinking the Mets offense has reached the bottom, and then they keep establishing new bottoms. 11 games, 47 hits, 15 runs. I mean, it's mind-boggling. It's historically poor.
Yeah.
And you keep waiting for it to change. And he's waiting more patiently than anybody. 2-1.
I know from just being here in the booth, you run out of ways kind of to talk about it because you feel like you're piling on, but it's the story, you know, whether you like it or not.
Well, again, they have to make sure that it doesn't drag every other part of their game down.
Yeah, well,
we've seen a little of that today.
Yep. You know, I've never seen anyone that I ever played with or watched from this booth. No one ever tries to be bad. No one ever tries to not get a hit.
And that's too high, ball 4, and the Mets have a chance in the ninth. Conforto on base for the second time, and that'll get Frazier to the plate as the tying run. Todd today is 0 for 3. Flied out and struck out twice against the starter Mike Soroka. He was the last man Soroka faced before he left in the 7th. Vizcaino, not your classic closer in that he doesn't throw 100 miles an hour, but he throws about 6 different pitches and he gets that slider in for a strike.
He does. If he does have an Achilles heel, occasionally he can lose the strike zone like he did against Conforto.
And Frazier lays off, stopped the swing in time, and it's 2-0. 1-1, excuse me. Todd's been chasing a lot the last few days. Sunday he went down and got that slider from Severino to hit a home run. Even that was a bit of a chase, but he got a good result out of it. And fastball on the corner, and it's 1-2.
99 from Vizcaino. Interesting, with 2 strikes, Swanson has gone out of the hole now. Is playing a more standard shortstop.
1-2 coming in the dirt, and it's 2-2. Brandon Nimmo waits on deck. Let's try to find some ninth inning magic. It's been lacking all day. On the corner, got him looking. Frazier begs to differ. Eric Cooper's had a big strike zone all day. And now the Mets are down to their final out of the afternoon.
Let's see if this fastball away catches the corner. Oh, sorry, slider, a little cutter, and I thought it was outside, but Suzuki pulled it back in. Yeah, boy, not even close. Frazier had a right to have a beef.
So it's left to Nimmo. Brandon is 0 for 3 today. Struck out his last 2 at bats. And he pulls one foul.
Freeman playing behind Conforto, allowing him, if he wants, to take second, stay out of the force. I think it's a smart move because Nimmo's got some speed. If he doesn't hit it hard, he can get himself an infield hit.
If Nimmo can keep it going, Jay Bruce would be next. Speed pitch by Vizcaino, and the Mets are down to their final strike. Nimmo pulls one down the line, headed toward the corner. That's a fair ball bouncing up against the wall. Conforto stops at third. Nimmo has a double, and the Mets have the tying runs in scoring position with 2 out. Nimmo down in the count 0-2, and he drills his 8th double of the year to keep the Mets alive.
He keeps grinding away, doesn't he? Backdoor slider. Nimmo handles it on the 0-2 count, keeps it fair. He gives the Mets a chance. Can't send him there. You got to give Bruce a chance.
That run means nothing. So now Bruce, who's 0 for 2 and a walk, drove on the Mets only 2 runs in this series, and he pops it up. Swanson back, calling all the way, and the Braves have swept this 2-game series. Mets strand the tying runs in the 9th as they are held to 2 hits on the afternoon. Mike Soroka in his 4th big league start pitched brilliantly, held the Mets hitless for the first 6. Mets have now lost 10 of 11, 17 of their last 21 as they're blanked today in Atlanta 2-0.
Soroka gets his second win. Saw Frazier had a couple of words for Eric Cooper as he's walking off the field, and Freddie Freeman, as he always does, a couple of hits, drove in a couple, and a big insurance home run in the 8th.
Mets last game in Atlanta this season. They lose 6 of 9 in this ballpark, and their offensive woes just keep getting deeper and deeper and deeper. Today's game summary presented by Spectrum. It took just 2 hours and 12 minutes for the Braves to blank the Mets the